Hello, everyone. Come on in.
Hello.
Live. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
And I'm Regeanie Corona.
Good to see you, Reg. So first of all, we have to say Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. I hope you're enjoying some great weather and some, it's the summertime. So I hope everybody's going out and having some fun. What are your plans, Reg, today?
Daniel, my husband, is off golfing with one of our sons. And so I'm actually working on the edits for our book. And I am sitting, waiting to hear we have a nephew and a niece, his wife, who are having a baby today. And she's really close. I mean, she's about probably 9 centimeters dilated right now. So we're waiting any moment to be told that our new niece, great niece, will be here. So.
Oh, are they in California then?
They are here in California, but you know, with the stay-at-home order, well, we're loosening up with that, but still, we're paying attention to it, and so we can't physically be around or to see her, but we are so super excited to have another addition to the family.
That's awesome. Plus, I mean, I'm just hoping, I was figuring California time, I'm just hoping that it happens on Father's Day, because what an amazing thing to happen on Father's Day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then Daniel's golfing today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we are, as soon as we're done with the show, we are, my family's actually gone, and the Colorado State University, the basketball coaches and the families and the wives and everything, we're having a big kickball game. So we have been talking trash for the past week. I'm telling you, everybody is so competitive. So we have been talking trash for the past week, down from what are we wearing, and, you know, thinking, you know, that people are doing workouts and, you know, things like that. And I mean, there's going to be little kids there. So I told my son and I are on the same team, and then my husband and my daughter on the other team. And he's like, Mom, should I go all out? I'm like, heck yeah, go all out. I said, except when that 2-year-old comes up to the plate, then don't go.
Right. You guys are so funny. And I can attest, you are very competitive. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We're hoping that we can wait out the thunderstorms here. So anyway, so we're just kind of catching up a little bit about what our Father's Day plans are today. If you're just joining us, it's so great to see you. We want to say hello to Vanjie Torres. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And we've got a lot of other people here. So say hi to us in the comments. Don't forget, and be part of the conversation. We don't want to just be talking at you, but we want to hear some of the things that you're going through as well. So we hope that you guys are having a great Father's Day. So, you know, just as a review, we are, for the month of June, talking about fear and conquering fear. We've had our good friend, our dear friend, Lisa Copeland. She kicked off our series with just tips on and steps of being a fearless leader. And if you missed that one, you have to go watch her. She just drops so many bombs. You know, it is just packed full with wisdom. And so that is living on our YouTube page. And then last week we talked about just assessing and thinking about different things as far as how do we conquer fear, right? And so we had looked at the excuses that we tell ourselves to try to overcome, you know, that lead us to fear, but then also we talked about actionable steps to get out of those excuses and to really conquer fear. So that was the whole assessment piece. This week, when we come back right after our short little video here, we're going to talk a little bit more about just overcoming fear and moving through trust issues, basically. And I know Reg and I have some really cool stories to share with you that we want to, you know, just be transparent and be able to tell you what our journeys are about. But it really led us to get past trust and walk into this commitment phase. And so we will be back just right after this, hanging in there, and we will start the show. All right. Okay. Reg, so let's dive in. We've got some people on here, already watching and engaging. And so let's talk about conquering a fear, and let's talk about how our journeys were, first of all. So, when we talk about conquering fear and getting over some of these trust issues that everybody faces, they might be in different realms, but tell me a little bit more about your story first, about how you moved through this trust and took that step to get closer to conquering your fear.
So I thought about this week, and you triggered something when you did a post about something that I did more recently that related to this. So toward the end of last year, I was invited to go on a business retreat, and I think it was in November. And it was out of the country. It was in St. Lucia in the Caribbean islands. And I did not know a single person, even the person that led the retreat, Danelle Delgado. I only knew her through seeing her online and Facebook and watching some of her stuff, but I didn't actually know her. And she and I talked a bit, but I just felt, I'm very intuitional. I share that all the time. And I am a person of faith. And I just decided, okay, I'm going to take her up on this offer. I'm going to go. I had to room with someone, and I'm very particular about that. I don't normally room with anyone. And normally if I travel outside of the country, Daniel goes with me. So there were all of these things that were coming into play. But I just threw caution to the wind, and I said, I'm going to have faith, I'm going to trust, and I'm going to put myself out there. And there was something that Daniel said to me that really made me say yes. He said, what if you don't go? What if you don't take that action step of going? You'll never know what you missed, and you'll always wonder, did you miss something that was crucial to your development, to your growth, to your ability to bring in greater business opportunities? And that was the thing that made me decide I have to do this at all costs. Mm-hmm. And I did. I went, and part of the trip was we had to pack this gear, a nightlight and black attire. And I had no idea what it was for. And when we got there, Danelle would not tell us. We all kept asking. She would not share what it was. So we were really nervous about this activity. And then, the day came, or the night came, we all go traipsing off in this long line down to the beach, which was very dark. And we had our night lights, and, without going into the whole entire story, it was a huge team building event. It involved a lot of trust and support through people that you didn't really know. And in the dark, right? You can't see what's going on. And it was kind of like team building and nighttime Olympics come together. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. I learned a lot of things about myself, and other people learned about themselves. And it was just great. So that was kind of the more recent story that I have. And I tell you, I'm so glad that I did that, because not only did I learn a lot of great things business-wise and meet wonderful people, but I realized that it allowed me to take another step of growth and put behind me something that I would have thought, that I thought was kind of a fear. I accomplished so much in terms of overcoming some of my fears that I didn't even realize I needed to have, or that I had. And I had a breakthrough on something business-wise that I would not have gotten had I not been in that environment. So it was huge.
So are you more of an introvert or an extrovert? Or one of the combination people?
I'm a combination of both. Most people see me as an extrovert because I socialize pretty easily. I like to talk. I'm very friendly and engaging, but I tend to lean more on the side of being an introvert. I love having my own private time. I actually have to recover from being out at events when I'm with a lot of people. I have to kind of close myself off for a period of time and just sort of recenter because I get overstimulated.
Yeah. And that's something that I was curious as you were telling that story, because, walking into that trust, there were multiple areas and levels of trust that you had to get through.
Yes.
Obviously, the first one was the biggest, because if you were more leaning towards the introvert, it must have been hard. I'm an extrovert, as people probably know. So, but I do know that as introverts, people do have to recharge, like you said. But I, obviously get energy when I'm around more people. So that first initial decision that you had to make about, oh my gosh, should I go? Because I literally don't know anybody. I'm going to a new country. I have to stay with somebody that I don't know. There's the activities that I don't know. There was a big, easy way out where you could have said, yeah, there's just too many unknowns and I'm just not going to do this, So really the first hurdle was getting over that. But then your trust was tested throughout the time that you were there as well. Do you feel like you were able to, or do you think that you're able to trust sooner or easier if an opportunity comes up again, where you have to make that decision? Do you invest in yourself? Do you just kind of, there's that fence, and do you just kind of go back to safety, or do you kind of leap? Do you think
without question? I think each time we take action on something, especially something that causes us fear or anxiety, the moment you take action on it, you raise the bar on where you're now at in terms of taking future actions. So something like that, I would never hesitate on again, because I've done it successfully. I came through it and I benefited from it.
Yeah.
So now I'm at a higher level in terms of that decision making, and I wouldn't question that again. Now it would be, the next level that I need to go to.
Yeah. And we talked about that with Lisa as well on our first show, because, she is, steps ahead of us in, doing different things and launching different things. And we asked her that same question: does it become easier to make these decisions? Or are they quicker for you? And she still struggles, but she says yes. And I think every time you take that action step, whether it's a different level that you're going to, it does become easier, because you make that, I guess it's that brain muscle, and the reaction, just something that you're using. So I think that it's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, it definitely will be easier. And I think it's important to remember, like Lisa said, the fear doesn't go away. You still feel a little apprehensive about things that are just unknown and you're unsure about. But each time you accomplish one of those things, it is like a muscle, but it's your self-confidence and your ability to more quickly respond just steps into play, I think.
Yeah.
Because you have something to measure against. You have a known that you can now measure against. So it makes it an easy call, I believe.
Yeah.
What about you?
So for me, Reg and I we still spend time in accountability calls and everything. So we had talked a little bit about our stories and our journeys and kind of preparing for the show. And she reminded me of mine. That's how well we know each other. But mine, one of the biggest things that made me step into this role of being more of an entrepreneur was when we first met. So we were at this weekend of 100 women. And I've talked about this. We talk about it in the book as well. But, I just came off of a place where I had just one person that kind of tore me down behind closed doors. I took it very personally. It happened a couple of times and my trust was gone. This was a trusted friend, and behind closed doors, when she did this to me and, the comments that she said were very hurtful. I was like, that's it. I am not going to be able to work with a woman or have a woman that close to me ever again because of this, because it was so hurtful. And so I was just walking away from something like that. And then I just placed myself in an area with 100 women. And I thought, I wasn't as worried because I knew nobody. But it was still one of those feelings where I was like, I don't know if I should get close to anybody because they're just going to hurt me again, or I'm just going to go into this dark hole and just not put myself out there, because the last time I did, I got torn down, So when we first met, that was what I was going through. And that event actually changed my life, because I've met people like you, like Lisa, like Sharon Lecter, Sherry Matthews, all of those people that were around us, Joni Young, lots of people oh my gosh, like we have friendships now that we will take, with us. And that was probably one of the biggest things that I got out of that, because walking away from a friendship that I thought was healthy and supportive, and walking into being able to just turn it right around, because at that event, I mean, look at what happened with you and I. And so
I know
my mindset walking in saying, I'm not going to trust anybody anymore because I got burned. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this woman is so nice. And I love her and I trust her, like immediately like that.
Yeah.
So, it was so interesting, but again, thinking back to that event, it's like if I did not put myself in that event, and I teetered back and forth because I just wasn't in the right mind space of going to that event. But there were just a few people who encouraged me to go to that event. But I look back and I can't even imagine my life if I didn't go to that event. I mean, I met so many people that maybe it didn't make a change right then and there, but over time, one of my mentors, Holly Dowling, was who I met there as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many amazing women that we became friends with, and that's sort of my story of thinking that I was never going to trust someone again and not putting myself out there because of the fear. But then maybe it wasn't the right person, or maybe it wasn't the right situation, things like that. So that's kind of my journey with that.
You know what? Do you feel comfortable talking a little bit more about how you felt going into that weekend? Like, did you feel that you weren't enough? Because I think that a lot of people sit in this space, right? They've had something happen, they've gotten burned, or they've had some kind of relationship where there's negative feedback. And then they embrace that feedback, and it keeps them from moving forward because they've been hurt, and they've actually taken on that, whatever that was, that negativity.
Yep.
And it stops them. So I think
I can go into it. I just didn't want to bore people, but yes. So what happened was, and I have to say the words that were said to me, because that is what played in my head the whole time. So the multiple times that this woman had a chance to tear me down, some of the things that she said to me were, you're not that important. You're only, you've only risen because I was there with you. Why are people interested in you? You don't even own a business yet, and there were all those things. So I basically felt that I was nothing, that I was nobody important. And those things were in my head. So walking into this event of 100 women, we had to have a lookbook. And so we had to submit, what we were working on, our bio picture, a description. At the time, I was an audiologist. I still am, but that's all I knew about myself. And being torn down in that space, I was like, I got nothing to offer anybody because this is what I do. I had a plan of trying to get women together and do some things. So I kind of briefly wrote something up. But as I was writing up my bio and this idea for this business that I wanted to start, I literally thought, this is ridiculous. Nobody's going to want to come talk to me. I'll put it in, but like nobody's going to come want to talk to me, but that's fine. I'm just going to be there. I'm going to learn. I'm going to soak everything in. And that's how I attend events too, is I really try to soak everything in that I possibly can. So as we got there, I kept thinking the same thing. I'm like, I'm nobody important. I have nothing to offer anybody. And I'm just going to, I'm going to be there just to be there because someone told me to come, basically. And it wasn't until I think I sat down with you and, what we had to do, one of the things that we had to do at the events was it was a give and a take around the table. So you had to tell people what you were doing, and everybody else at the table had to say, oh, well, I've got a resource for that. I can help you out. I can do that. So the only thing that I knew that I was actually pretty good at the time was probably social media, besides being an audiologist. So I talked more about social media and getting people connected, which again, I didn't know at the time that it was going to lead to a lot more later. And I think that's what I talked about. But it wasn't until I sat down with Holly, I think there was another day where we got to choose people that we wanted to meet with, people that have been steps ahead of us, that you can actually spend time one-on-one. And I sat back because, again, my inferior self told me in my head, you're not important. Let everybody else go in front of you, that wants to speak to you, and you just sit back. Until the executive director came over, because I was an ambassador at the time, and she said, what are you doing? You need to get in there and sign up for a spot. And I said, no, I'll just let everybody go. And she said, no, who do you want to speak to? And I said, well, I'd like to meet Holly Dowling. And she said, we're making it happen. She's leaving for a plane, but I just called her. She's going to be down here in 30 minutes. You're going to go meet her right now. Wow. And so that feeling of being important again kind of launched that. Then the friendships that I made there also launched my confidence as well. Some of the really cool things that we got to do around the table to actually work with the United Nations, that was incredible. So all of these things added to the confidence. And then it was one last person that just made me bawl at the event was, and I know who it was Chantal Schultz, And
yes, in Canada.
She stood up and she, authentically shared about how she was torn down and, and everything. And at that time I thought, oh my gosh, there's another woman that is going through the exact same thing that I'm going through. And it just hit me but she's standing up and she's motivated to get going again. And so all of everything that went on in that weekend, from, feeling like a zero to, oh my gosh, okay, maybe I could do something and help other people. That's what transformed out of that weekend, because I committed to attend to that weekend and trust people again. So I think that was a little more of the story.
Well, thank you for sharing, because I think there are two things that are really important that I'd like the audience to take away. One is, when other people put you down like that, it generally happens because they are either intimidated by you or they are trying to lift themselves up even more. But the reality is, internally, they've got insecurity issues. And so they're deflecting everything off to you. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, usually when that happens, it's because no one else can understand your drive, your dream, your goals, because they're not made for other people. They're made for you. And so I want the audience to really, really embrace those two things if you are experiencing anything like this, because that's something that can hold us back, and people are being toxic. But you have to develop this sort of thick skin that says, what that person thinks about me is none of my business. What I think about me is my business. And it's important for us to each believe in our dreams and believe in ourselves to accomplish our dreams. So I think it's really important that you were able to share that with everyone. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that I love sharing our journeys along the way, because as we continue to walk in, launching our book, launching this movement of action, just taking action, I also want people to know that we've gone through a lot of different things to get where we are, and we continue to. And if we can tell stories that will help somebody else understand that they're not alone in this, and that other people have experienced it, then I want to be able to do that, because I think that that's the only way that, people are going to be able to help each other out in this journey, right?
I agree. And unfortunately, we see this more with women than with men. Men are doing things and they'll just, hey, give a pat on the back. Great job. You go, dude. Women tend to feel like they've got to one up the other woman. And if more of us can support each other and push each other forward and be genuinely happy
Yeah.
for those that are making it and then believing that, okay, I'm going to be there too. They are my inspiration, then we would be able to accomplish so much more.
Yes,
So,
I agree. Yeah. So let's talk about, some action steps, because we always
yeah.
like to have some takeaways, going through the commitment side of what we're going through in our ACT acronym of assess, commit, and transform. We're talking about a commitment stage. And so, let's go over commitment tip number 1 that we have for people. I think that you do this a lot better than I do, but, I'm going to have you talk about just, journaling and having gratitude every morning, things like that.
Yeah, it's so important to journal your feelings. It doesn't have to be structured. A lot of people think, oh, I've got to sit down and be structured. No, you don't. It's just putting on paper what you are thinking about. And it's good to do it because you can go back, say, a year later and look at what you were thinking, but you can also look at how much you've progressed from that year. But I start every day with doing gratitudes. Some people do it at nighttime, but this idea or this practice of being grateful for things that you already have in the moment, even the small things, helps you to get better at preparing for what is to come. And I mentioned Danelle Delgado. So this was something I practiced already before I went on that retreat last year. But one of her big things is to practice gratitude and write down 10 gratitudes a day. So I've always practiced writing down 5. And so I forced myself to start doing 10 a day. And it has been huge for me. And it can really help you to hone in on what you want and making the commitment to go after what you want, just being grateful for what you have. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I went on a retreat with Holly and about 6 or 7 other women. And that's one of the things that she had us do too. And for me, who's a busybody, she had us pause every morning, and it was just a pause for 5 minutes. And what was interesting was I never think that my brain turns off sometimes, But so when she's like, okay, you're going to sit for 5 minutes, I thought, oh gosh, like my brain's going to be going like, here's an idea, here's this, here's that. But I actually did. I got into the practice of pausing for that 5 minutes. And what was interesting was she said, focus on a word that comes to you in that 5-minute period, and then write the 3 gratitude, the what you're thankful for. But I was shocked that you and I live a word out for the year. But she had taught me that if you are quiet and in the pause, there's actually a word that will come to you that you can live out for that particular day. And that's what I found too, in being quiet, being, in that state where you can think about what you're really thankful for and having that gratitude. There was a word that popped out, for me to live for the day. And so I thought that was kind of interesting too.
That is.
Yeah. Part of, this tip too is to give yourself grace.
Yes.
Right. And that's, I think, a huge thing too, because there's an issue about trusting other people. Right. And if something bad happened to you, or you were treated in some bad way, then you stop trusting people. But there's also an issue of you not being able to trust yourself to make decisions that you're good enough, right?
That's true.
So I think that giving yourself grace is another part of this tip that I wanted to point out, because I think in this quiet space of being thankful, you are able to focus on yourself as well and look at what you have gratitude for in your life.
Yep. Yeah. That is very true.
Now, all right.
Very
so true. Tip number 2, find that one step that you can commit to doing. I love that one too. Yeah. I mean, even so, I am working with a physician that is kind of just having me work on different things just to stay healthy, diet wise and everything like that. And instead of throwing a bunch of things, this is one of the things that he said to me. He said, he said, I know that you're really, really busy, but if you can just focus on one thing to get done by the next time I see you, and that you can commit to doing, don't worry about the other 10 things I want you to do. You will get there. But if you can focus on one thing until the next time I see you, you will stay committed to it. And so I thought that was kind of a really interesting tip. What about you in this tip?
I agree with that. I mean, I tend to feel overwhelmed if I try to commit to too many things. I'm always juggling lots of balls in the air. I've got a lot of things going on. And I find that when I sort of back off of some of those bigger things and just say, okay, for the week, I am going to focus on accomplishing this particular thing. Then if I focus on that one thing, I find that I have greater success and I feel better after, and it's less stressful. So definitely I find that to be true as well. That there's a book called The One Thing. And it takes that same idea and you kind of drive towards one thing in your life at a particular time that you're focused on and you're hitting really hard. And then you have accomplishment with that before you start moving on to lots of different things, because that saying, you go squirrel, it's like you've got all these distractions and you start running after the different ones. But if you just focus on one thing, you probably can have greater success. And I know I'm able to apply that at times.
Yeah. And I used to be proud of the fact that I could multitask, and sometimes I still do. But when I looked into the research, it actually is not a healthy thing to do to multitask. And so what's funny is my word of the year is focus. And it is something that I am practicing this year. And I'm loving, because I get things done faster, I think, if I can actually focus on one thing until it's done and then move on to the next thing. So yeah, I love that tip there. Yeah. All right. And then our last tip is set SMART goals, but more importantly, with a timeline. And so, people that know SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, time bound, achievable. Yep. So
realistic.
These are SMART goals, but what we want to focus on is the time component in this tip, is that, try to make a goal, but then have something where, at least like for Reg and I, because we actually meet every week, it's like I have a week to get things done before I meet with her the next time, because I need to get that done. So for me, I have short goals that might be the day or the week. I know that you love challenging, especially for bigger projects, kind of looking at it at a 90-day type of time period. So talk to me about that.
It's funny. This is just what I finished editing in our book. And it talks about how you will tend to identify things for the day, put them in your calendar, and you like to cross things off. For me, it talks about how I have this 90-day process. So I use a 90-day process, and I teach and coach my clients and my students on the nonprofit side to look at 90-day chunks. So you may have a bigger picture goal, but when you can chunk it down into the milestones and objectives that are needed to get to that bigger goal, but you do it in 90-day chunks, it does a couple things for you, right? You're able to make it smaller and more, put it in bite-sized pieces, so it's more manageable. So you tend to get less anxiety, less overwhelmed about it. It also becomes something that's more achievable and realistic for you. And then you have an outcome that you can celebrate in a shorter period of time. And so I love doing that. I may have, let's say I have a goal of $100,000 in revenue with a particular business that I'm running, but that seems like, well, to some, it may not seem like a lot, but that can seem overwhelming. So how do I take that and chunk it down into something that's more manageable? Well, I break it down into 90-day chunks, which I do against quarters in the year. And then I'm able to realize it more easily. So that works for me really well. And I help other people with that. And it seems to be something that works. And I don't have the market cornered on that. I learned that from someone else. I see other people doing it, and it seems to be a successful method.
Yeah. And I like both methods, because of course, yes, I love checking things off, but I see how you're able to take a bigger picture and then split it up to be more manageable. Of course, that's the business strategist over here that Reg is. But she's even taught me how to do different things like that too, in looking at the future. How are we going to look at a business strategy? And then let's take the steps to get to that particular outcome. So I'm loving learning that from her as well.
And you're helping me too, because I'm not good at sort of keeping up with the everyday, here are the tasks that I need to do. And Daniel's always on my case about it. And so he's thrilled to death. that now Natalie is on the other side. So they're both pressing on both sides, reminding me of my daily things that I need to get done. And I truly appreciate that. So I'm learning too.
Yeah, and that's what accountability partners are for. And so again, walking this journey out with Reg, it's so exciting. We're hoping that, by the time that our book launches, we're going to get people connected to each other, start some kind of accountability partnership with somebody else you might not even know right now. And, by the time we start everything, that they're going to be this perfect person that has been waiting for exactly who you are and can mesh as well. So we're super excited. I'm excited for you guys to just kind of hang in there with us today. I know that we went a little bit longer than what we intended to, but I like, some of the different stories, and we always want to make sure that we give you some actionable steps to take.
Yes.
So, for our episode today, Conquering Fear Through Trust, this is it. But come back next week. Our last episode for the topic of fear is going to cover fear and just staying healthy and staying in that mindset, as well as just making sure that we can tackle fear, but still be whole as well. So we're excited to bring you that topic next week. We're so glad that you guys were able to watch us. If you are just catching us now, it will live here on Facebook. It will also be on YouTube soon, so you can always catch the replay there. And we want to make sure that if you ever want to reach out to us, the ticker down there is our email list. So please, join our email list. You will be getting some free tidbits, a free e-course, and then also you'll be one of the first people to know when our book is going to be ready to be purchased. And so with that, we're going to head out. But thank you guys so much for joining us on your Sunday afternoon.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.